reproduction of this content is not allowed without the express written consent of EBH Fitness, LLC. We're back.
All right, everyone, welcome to week 3 wrap-up show. My name is Kyle, my co-host Kenny Davis, and let's just jump right into this, man. We had a big week.
Big week, huge week.
So we're gonna re-look at the top 10, hone in on about 3 of those games. But let's get started with out the gate. I mean, you had Hanks at number 10 comes in, gets the big win over Irving, taking Hanks now 3-0, 56-13 win over Irving.
Yeah, no doubt about that. When Jude Blanco was doing his thing, Marcus Porter's doing his thing. The question was, were they going to be able to keep Irving off the scoreboard? And regardless of what happened, it was a good win for the Hanks Knights.
Then you had the number 9 seed, Riverside against Jefferson. Riverside pulls off the win 28-0, raising their record to 2-1. Jefferson falls to 0-3.
What you wonder about the Jefferson team is they've revamped the offense and gone to a new offense, and so you certainly see there's going to be some growing pains with the football team, and so Riverside's had some nice bounce backs now, 2-1 on the season.
Definitely. Now the game that they were who we thought they were going to be.
Absolutely.
Americas and Montwood.
Yep, there we go again. Should we say part 2? Rinse, repeat, do it again.
Man, I tell you.
Isn't that like 3 games in a row down at the SAC that have come down to the very last? 3 overtimes, y'all. 3 overtimes with this group. You talk about a couple of stars there, when
we talked about the game, I said that in order for Montwood to have a chance, Oaxaca's going to do his thing.
Yep. And he did his thing.
Isaiah Claudio had to show up, and Claudio 106 yards on 28 carries.
Fed him. They fed him.
I mean, that by creating that run game, it allowed them to then go to the air.
Absolutely, and then opened up some key plays, and for that team to, as I think about the game, America's jumped out to a 20-7 lead, and you're kind of thinking, this is going to be kind of tough on Montwood, but they stayed patient. Coach Ronhell, stayed patient with the group, and they were able to figure something out. It took 3 overtimes, but they got it done.
I was going to say 3 overtimes, and you had America's made some plays. Their stars showed up as well. It just came down to who executed at the end.
Yeah, turnovers were a big part of this game. As always, big plays. I know LT Miranda had an interception. Mark Moore had some good plays, and then like all young quarterbacks, he had some ones. I want to take that throw back. He had some of that going on, but at the end of the day, the young running back Cameron Johnson, Promise, they had some plays, but it's kind of how 6A is going to be. Every game you're gonna have to fight. You want to get that dub, you're gonna have to fight.
Definitely. And so. At the end of the day, Montwood pulls off the victory to go 1-2, 37-35 over Americas, who now falls to 1-2.
Yeah, moving forward, every week you got to show up and play. Every week you got to show up and play. Now,
we go to the number 17. You have Parkland versus Burgess. Parkland now 3-0 as they get the victory 35-0 over Burgess, who now falls to 0-3.
Yeah, with Parkland's football team, everybody was wondering whether Coach Lee McQuarters was going to be able to do his thing, and he's found a way to revamp that offense, put in a bunch of new players on the O-line, and also plug in a few guys on defense to replace a lot of really good top-notch seniors that left. And so he's got a favorable schedule to be able to make sure that his kids are able to develop and grow, and they've been able to do that.
And it's all lining up to this showdown at the end in that 5A between Parkland, Bel Air, and Del Valle.
Yeah, no knock on Hanks or anything like that, but and they're going to play both those teams right off the bat.
Yeah.
And so
We'll find out about Hanks real soon.
real soon. We're going to find about them real soon. And so they get both those teams district games 1 and 2. So so I think at the end of the day, and I think you're right, Steve, is they're going to go back to kind of what we saw last year. Minus injuries, and grades just came out, so stay tuned for that, y'all, to see ultimately what the impact was on a lot of programs.
Definitely. And then the number 6 ranked team we have in the borderland, Del Valle, goes to now 2-1 after a 53-0
Dominant game. I mean,
over Andrews, 0-3. Yeah.
Yeah, that is a young Andrews football team, and what it reminds me of, and don't get mad at me, y'all, but Bel Air, in its case, when their group of seniors now, when they were sophomores, that group went 2-9. They went 2-9 and 2-9 because they were able to get to the playoffs, but they went 2-9, and you knew that they were going to have their growing pains and they were going to learn. But then, by the time they were juniors, they go 8-3, and we see in the senior campaign it's kind of the same. They're rolling right along. I think the Andrews team, hey, for the Andrews fan base out there, look, y'all, be patient. Y'all are going to be just fine. Y'all got a lot of good kids over there, and they're going to develop and grow. And so next year, you can look for that team to fight for the playoffs.
Definitely. So, folks, that's our top. That's 10 through 6. We're going to take a quick break right here. We'll be back with the 5 through 1. All right, folks, we are back now. Let's look at the number 5 seed, Bel Air. 3-0 now after a dominant victory over Chaparral, 61-0. Starters play, maybe a quarter and a half?
Quarter and a half, and you kind of you knew that. Look, y'all, you knew that was going to be kind of the case. The Stars showed up again. Highlight Mark McKeeby, who picked another ball off. That's 3 weeks in a row, 3 games in a row, a pick 6. It's hard enough to get 1 pick 6, but he's got 3 already in the first 3 games. The only way that happens is people keep throwing at you. So we'll see how teams deal with that moving forward. Next week with Clint, I don't expect a whole lot of throwing in that game. So it's going to be a whole lot of bruising and tackling, if you will. Now, Bel Air they were dominant. Chris Davis did his thing. A couple punt returns, about 84 yards, and they had a lot of turnovers in the game. Multiple. Jacob Balderrama had a couple fumble recoveries, big middle linebacker.
Yeah.
He also had an interception in the game, and so it was just not a lot of balls thrown. You're not going to see a lot in the stat column. I mean, that's coach's choices and all of that. But at the end of the day, you schedule who you schedule, you play who you play, and the kids can only do what they do. And so, I see a lot of things, if I may, online where people kind of get on the Bel Air about their schedule. But, I mean, you play who you play. And some of those games, one of those in particular, they tried to move off the schedule, and other people said no. And so, and that was probably due to what they saw, last year, and would say, I don't know if I want to play that. And so sometimes you do the best you can. You do with what you got. You deal a hand you got. I just hope that the kids moving forward, forward, they get, at least a couple quarters, 3 quarters, because at some point you got to play football.
Yeah.
And you got to get the reps in. And being afraid of injuries or something like that is football. Injury can happen on the first play of the game. It can happen on the last play of the game. So you can't, run it like that. You got to, think through it. And Zach Martinez, the running back, came back and got a couple plays in there. And so you just, at the end of the day, for all these teams that are playing, and you see these big scores out there, just, you always remember the kids got to play down the road. And so they got to get their time in too.
And you bring up a good point. Like, you don't want to run the score up on anybody by no stretch of the imagination. Right. But you have players who their play really is going to dictate whether or not they get to play at the next level.
Right.
And so trying to balance between saving face per se within
right.
the community, but also, I mean, you've got kids that you got a responsibility to that you've probably made promises to help get recruited, and so
Sure.
they've got to get their numbers. in order for college coaches to see them as a viable option for their team. And so that's the balancing act I think that a lot of these programs have to kind of look at is like, I got players that want to play at the next level, but I also don't want to try to show up the other team.
Right, and that's a tough balancing act. And I think about the kid at Del Valle. I mean, this guy Manny Fuller probably really should rush for about 3,000 yards this year. Will he? That remains to be seen. And will they give him the ball enough times? Now, I remember Deion Hankins when he was at Parkland. He got his touches, and so did Dumas up at Americas. The Fields boys got their touches. It is what it is. And, of course, the reward for that, they won some championships, and at the same time, they were able to move on and play at the next level. And so as you move forward, we just caution our audience, as you watch all of these games and you look at the stars and you see what they're doing or not doing or whatever case may be, at the end of the day, the rent is going to come due. And it is going to come due. The kids have to get their time. They have to get their play in. It's tough that when you get to a district like these 1-6A teams, some of them kids hadn't played a whole whole game yet. And so, because they've been blowing folks out. And now it's like, oh, man, I'm gassing this full court because you hadn't played a full game. And you hadn't had a chance to see that. And so that's the balancing act that all coaches have to make. And they roll the dice with that because the young kids watch and they look and see who does what and then make determinations going forward from that.
And then it also impacts postseason awards.
Oh, yeah.
You got a player who everybody says, oh, that's the guy, but the guy don't have the numbers to back up that saying. And so now are we doing – and so it's definitely a balancing act that these coaches have to look at on the basketball side.
Right. I was getting ready to go. You know they're doing the basketball.
These coaches are going to let their kids get their numbers. I'm sorry.
Right.
They're going to get their numbers before they take them out. And so, but I get it. You don't want to run the score up. You don't want to show teams up. But at the same time, as coaches, we have a responsibility to make sure that our student athletes get the best opportunity to showcase themselves for the next level.
Right, and that's part of the leadership. That's part of the leadership of the programs, whether it's football, basketball, track and field. That comes with it, and so that's the delicate dance and balance that each coach has to do. And it's not throwing rocks at any coach or coaches in particular across the city. We're talking most of the parents so that you understand that, sure, there is a balancing act, and it's a very careful balancing act because at the end of the day, once those kids leave your school and head off to college to either play or not play or whatever case may be, you want them to leave with a great experience from your program. And if they leave from your school with a bad experience from the program, these are kids that you want to come back to your program and talk about, what they learned and how it impacted them now that they're moms and dads and, and things like that. So we just hope that moving forward, remember, parents, we got a lot of tough games coming across the board, and especially in this 1-6A for sure. So you're going to see some things like that. Going to 1-6A?
Oh, no. Number 4, Kenya Teal, now 2-1 after 35-7 win over Austin. Another one of those things we just talking about. It just happens. But now we're going to get into the top of the top
cream
of
of the crop. Yeah, the cream of the crop.
So the game that, we all talked about, it happened on Thursday. Number 2, Franklin versus Coronado.
Now,
man,
I'm not going to revisit some picks on that one, but look, we knew that once we found out about these injuries going on, especially on the Franklin side, it would change drastically the dynamic in the football game. We knew that they were missing a lot of they were listing a lot of arrows in the quiver, to be able to do their, what they normally would. And Shea Smith certainly showed up and did his part. He led that football team. And the defense, the defense from Franklin showed up. Held Coronado 13 points.
Yeah, they had some people who stepped up. The running back stepped up for Franklin.
Oh,
He stepped up big time. And
Right.
I mean, gave them that opportunity to win. And so,
And for the guy who wasn't the, Jordan Morales was out, and for the guy that's not the guy, he came in, and that kind of tells you about programs like that. Remember what we said last week? It's a 1 and a 1A. You got some really good dudes that are just getting a few carries, a few catches, a few tackles here, but they're pretty doggone good football players, and they're just waiting for their opportunity. And this young man, he did plenty at the running back position to make sure that things took care of themselves. And Shea was Shea. Did it all for the Franklin Cougars in this game, and showed up. And
yeah, and I think it speaks volumes to the character of the running back, right? So
who won the game again? I just want.
Franklin won 14-13.
Yeah, I just want to know who the pick was. I just want to know who the pick was.
Hey, that game was closer than I bet you half the city thought it was going to be.
Yeah,
without a doubt. But now, here's what I want to say though. We always talk about in sports. You always talk about the next man up mentality.
Yeah.
It's hard for that to happen in high school.
Yeah.
Because to stay engaged, because you're thinking you should be on the field and you're not.
Right.
And so for that young man to be ready.
Yeah.
When called upon, now that gives them an option.
Oh yeah.
Now that really just strengthened his stance, I think, in the coach's eyes, and say, okay, you know what, we can play him.
Yeah.
We can give him some more touches.
Oh, no doubt. And kudos, hats off to Coach Walker and the program out there at Franklin. Wow. Yes, absolutely well done with a lot of adversity. Now, Owen over at Coronado went out in the game, and he was out in the game, and so Randag stepped in and did his part to certainly. Coach Pry, he did his thing. He kept that football team engaged. They fought really hard, and it kind of brought back that old spirit of the toughness of those two programs. He probably kept 10 more kids in his program coming out of middle school than before, because the floodgates were open to Franklin and Canatee over on the west side, and so now you're going to certainly see a few more kids staying home to play and become a Thunderbird.
But I told you, I said it on Wednesday, man. It doesn't matter what the records are when them two step on the field.
Yeah,
it's gonna be a game. It is going to be a game.
Yeah, no doubt, no doubt.
But now, this is the game that everybody in the city was waiting for.
Tito. Yeah.
Number 1, Pebble Hills versus number 3, Eastwood. And boy, did that game not disappoint.
At all. And
you were right on the nose when you said the winner was going to have to score 45 or more points. I will give you that. I will give you that.
That's right. Nostradamus Davis.
Eastwood won to go 2-1, 49-42 against Pebble Hills. But I think the biggest surprise is the quarterback play.
Oh, I tell you what, I got to see both quarterbacks in the action. And it was something to behold. Evan Manhattan has threw the ball better in the game. Just is what it is. Gael threw